Yeah. So I moved from grief to joy to guilt, right? Because I feel like, oh, I'm on here and I'm seeing people tweeting so much and, you know, and I'm just like, okay, where is my place in that? Like, I'm experiencing all this joy and I'm like cooling. But I had this moment of like, okay, there are a lot of people on the front lines and I support you. And I know what it's like to be on those front lines. So when I was getting my master's in St. Louis, I was living in St. Louis during the time of Mike Brown. And they like to make Ferguson seem like it's this other city way down somewhere else, right? But literally, my school was like right here. My house was like right here. I remember going to a church that's like right here. And Ferguson's right here.
So you have to cross through to get to church.
You gotta cross through to get to church. And it's not like it took me 30 minutes to get to church. It took me 12 minutes. Right?
So they try to make it seem like it just wasn't part of St. Louis proper.
But that's how like St. Louis folk see kind of St. Louis. Like you don't live in St. Louis, you live in Ferguson, or you live in West County, or you live in like these other places, right? And so when I decided to go out there and march and protest, it fucked my anxiety up. And I quickly learned that being on the front lines is not for me, right? And so where my space actually is using my profession to kind of resist, right? So when it came to me living in St. Louis, I worked at a nonprofit that like worked on HIV, STI reduction amongst Black and brown queer men. And so me and my supervisor came together and created a group for those men to kind of process their feelings, right? Here, even though I felt like guilt when I was looking at the different tweets, right, in this moment, I was just like, no, I don't need to feel guilty. What I can do is, as a doctoral candidate, I can talk about the guilt that I'm processing because I know other people are probably processing the same thing. I can talk about the hurt. I can encourage people to make moments for joy. I can talk to other Black therapists about what it's gonna be like when you've gone through a full weekend of all this mess and you still have to show up for Black, brown, white people. Like, you know what I mean? Right. And you're still processing all of these emotions and, you know, advocate for maybe changing the way your therapy looks or changing the way, you know, you engage with your supervisors, or give yourself permission, don't engage with your supervisors and your coworkers at all because they might be on some bullshit on like some, I'm not informed.
Sure.
You don't have to deal with
that. That's a triggering sentence.
Right?
Not a fan.
So I guess, is that how I'm dealing? I forgot the question, but I wanted to just like share that experience. That has kind of been my process. Where I am now is like, you know, yeah, I'm feeling different types of emotions and I'm allowing myself to do so.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, you did answer the question, and thank you for that level of vulnerability and just sharing. I think one thing that you said that resonated with me is the privilege. I think that some of us, even as Black folk, like, yes, this is impacting our people, but we also have to understand what privileges keep us protected from some of these things. You know, us, we're kind of out in the burbs. And
for real.
Right, I haven't seen any looting, I haven't seen any rioting, and I haven't seen people marching up and down this street. And for y'all who watch my videos, you probably hear motorcycles and cars. I live by a super busy roadway. I haven't seen anything, and I think that's a privilege to be able to sit in my home and be, for the most part, not affected by some of those things that are happening in our city. So when you said that, I was like, yeah, I gotta recognize where I have privileges that shield me from some of that devastation that other people are feeling, because I think that gets in the way of us having compassion, having understanding, having empathy, is that we forget that even as Black folk, we have privilege.
Yes, and we have to engage in the intentional practice of being connected to these issues, right? Because I'm gonna be real. Ever since COVID, the only thing I've been doing is cooking and working on dissertation, right? And if I wanted to stay in that bubble, I absolutely could. But remember I said before, I had to engage in the intentional practice of exposing myself to the videos, right? Getting informed about what's happening in current events, and then figuring out where, like, what part of the vineyard I can work right? It may not be driving to the nearest city to engage in protest, but I've been sitting on knowledge for like the past 5 years and different practices. I can share that with people who may not have had access to that before all this started, right? And kind of give them something that they can use to further endure all that they're being exposed to.
Right. Thank you for naming that. Yeah. So Albizi, what about you?
Yeah, I think so. Even when you said the word protection and shielding, I think about the range of emotions that I've gone through, which definitely goes from, like you said, the grief, the anxiety, because I like to run. I like to run on trails.
We've seen.
You know, sometimes I post videos. I post videos of myself, like just being active and engaging in what I consider to be self-care. And then literally, like probably a week and a half or 2 weeks after, a young man gets shot and killed for running, right? And that was like shocking to me. It was like, oh my God, like this is happening. And then it was like, this is happening again, right? So I think during these times, like for me, my anxiety definitely kicks up into high gear, and I have to like be very, very protective of my peace. And like the space that I get myself into. So like over consuming social media is not helpful for me whatsoever. And you know, luckily, like my girlfriend tries to tell me like, take a break. You need to take a break. Put your phone down. And I'm like, you're right. You're absolutely right. So I go between trying to inform myself and trying to educate myself on what's going on, because I want to be informed. I don't want to be one of those black people that say, well, I don't really know what's going on.
Right.
Because then I feel like that's a betrayal, right? Like sometimes it feels like if I don't watch the video, then I'm not doing what I need to do as a black person, especially during this time.
Ooh, wait, pause.
Yeah.
Speak on that.
Yeah,
betrayal is a strong word.
I know. So for me, like it often feels, and this is just like stuff dealing, what I've had to like kind of reframe for myself growing up is like, yeah, I'm black. Yes, I'm black. The questioning of whether I'm black or not, right? So predominantly white schools, through middle school and high school, going to predominantly white college, and then a graduate school. And all throughout that time, it's like, you know, you speak eloquently and people say you're not black enough, or you don't, your pants don't sag enough and people say you're not black enough. So there's always this like, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing myself a disservice, or am I doing my fellow black man justice by not watching these videos, by not, I don't know, knowing what's going on in black culture, or what's, you know, doing the whole gossip thing, or some people watch Ratchet TV. I don't like Ratchet TV, right? I just don't.
We'll come back to that.
I don't like Ratchet TV.
But see, we can all exist on a continuum.
Right. So sometimes I feel like if I don't watch those videos, like, am I doing what I need to do as a black person? Should I be as angry as everyone else is? And that's where you were kind of talking about, like, just know where you are, see what's going on, but like see where you fit in that. Like, I don't have to be the one out there on the front lines. I don't have to be the person that is, you know, trolling Twitter. I don't have to be the person that is kind of going against every single white person that I see that's commenting on a video here and there. And it's like, just do what you can do. Yeah. Just do what you can do. And I think I'm in the space where I'm like just doing what I can do, which is when it's presented to me, then I comment on it. I say what I have to say. I post things sometimes on my Instagram and I kind of leave it there. I don't really go back and forth with people. If I see somebody that I know that's saying something, then I'll speak to them. But I'm not hunting down people trying to get them to what you're saying is wrong and what you're saying is wrong. I'm not doing all that, because that can easily take me out of the frame of mind where I do have to go to work and I do have to work with white people day after day after day. I have to do it.
And another thing that you do is, you know, as one who stands your social media,
it's a very enjoyable experience. Don't worry, the social media handles will be in the description, y'all.
Right. You tap into your art, and I think that's something that a lot of people, I don't know, it just like goes over their heads, right? In these moments, we feel like we all have to be this caricature of, or this representation of, Black liberation, or this kind of like reemergence of what you perceive the Black Panther Party to be, or like, you know, whatever historical trope you think you're trying to fit, right? But we have been given specific gifts, right? That can be used to aid in times like these, right? So for you, it's music. Your Freedom Fridays, wonderful. Such a soothing, such a balm, right? In these moments where we're kind of just like stress the F out, right? For some people, you know, the little food pictures that I post may be a bit of a balm because it's like, okay, it reminds me that I don't have to be overwhelmed by what's going on. I can take a small break and go cook something.
Here's a nice recipe I need to try.
Yes.
I'll be looking at that thing. I'm like, okay.
I mean,
I saw on there. Oh, wait a minute.
I can't wait
Wait
to
a
have
minute.
my,
We can go whip
what
this
is it,
up
my
real
sweet
quick.
potato turkey.
Amen.
Yeah, no, I mean, what you guys are saying, I think I want to name these things for those who are watching. I think part of it is, part of it is this notion, and somebody said it in one of my group chats, is that for whatever reason, Black people feel like we all have to be on the same page doing the same thing. And if we're not, it's cancel them, it's not a positive. And I think what we're talking about is there is a diversity of ways to show up. And, you know, I think I have to tackle that within my own self. I know I feel some type of way when I feel like Black people are not advocating or doing something, but I think this conversation is important to have. We had Tanya Williams, and she's Dr. Tanya Williams. She's amazing, and she's come and work with me in my institution. And you know, she talks about positionality. Do what you can from where you're positioned in the circle.
Wow.
And I think when she said this a couple weeks ago, I was like, yeah, we can't all fight for the things in the same way. That's just not, that's absurd to ask. But wherever you are positioned, play your role from your position. So if there are people who are willing and able, and to be on the front lines is such a big cost. And I want to name and my appreciation and thankfulness, because when you are putting yourself in the front lines, I think on some subconscious level you are acknowledging the potential death, destruction, bodily harm that could come to you by making that choice. And I think for some of us that is not our ministry to be in the front. I appreciate you for naming that anxiety that came up for you when you try to get out there. I appreciate you for naming, you know, this sense of like, it's hard for me to watch these things, and yet I still want to use what I can to support people. And I think that's important. I want to name that. We can play the role we can from where we're at. I see us, and I call what we do healing work. Not everybody in our profession though is trying to heal. But because I have a personal connection to both of you, I know that we are here to heal and restore. That's our power. That's our position. How can we play that role? Like, you know, I volunteer to maybe funnel some crisis counseling calls for people who are on the front line. I know for me, I've been donating money to like the Minnesota Freedom Fund. And there's another GoFundMe from back at home that I'll be contributing to probably this evening. And that's how I use my privilege. That's how I use my power, my resources. And I think that's important to name. And, you know, I'm curious, and I want to ask y'all, you know, what do you think? And I want to focus on Black men for a second, because I do honor the Black woman, you know, but I want to talk about the healing of the Black man. And what do you think is needed for Black men in this time to, I won't say heal, because it's hard to heal when the scab keeps getting ripped off, but what do Black men need right now? Also, do you guys all feel like we're on Red Table Talk? I feel like I'm channeling my like inner Willow. No, I feel like Willow today. Okay, I'm channeling my
Gammy.
You Gammy. Mom, Jada.
I'm watching.
Oh. But yeah, okay, I'll take Jada. I feel like I'm channeling my inner Jada. Like, tell me, kings.
We were having a discussion earlier,
On my nose, allergies.
and I was asking you what Black students need during this time, especially, you know, Black students in the collegiate space.
Yes.
And your answer was that they need space. I think Black men may need the same thing. space without consequence.
Yes.
For their vulnerability.
Yeah.
Say more about that.
That's it.
That's
it
yes.
right there. That's it.
Because I feel like,
we need to get Tim.
and I think they've needed that.
Jesus.
Amen. Bless him. Bless him. I think we've needed that. I don't want to say they because I am a black man, right? We've needed that for a long time, right? We've needed the space to be vulnerable, to express our emotions, to express when we don't have it all together, to express when we're hurting, to express those emotions that a lot of times we get demonized for, we get labeled some derogatory term for. And now it's all coming to
the head.
To the head, yeah. And so I think, again, that need is so much greater. Yeah, so we just need space to process these emotions without consequence, without being called weak.
Yeah.
We need those spaces along with affirmation that we're strong for tapping into that vulnerability.
Listen, that needs to be a quote on a very long shirt.
Yeah. And I also recognize, like, in doing my research around masculinity, I recognize that the spaces that we currently exist in where we're bashed for being vulnerable is an effort to align with masculinity to gain humanity.
So if you don't have a strong sense of masculinity, we can't see you as a person.
Because we're seen as
weak.
Or we have been painted as
weak
or not human or not an individual. Ooh, I wish I wasn't on this rosé. Okay? We historically have been painted as not human. The only thing we're good for is hypersexuality, this kind of buck trope. But then when you also think of Sambo, we're painted as like this, just entertainment, right? We're not really painted as a complex human with complex emotions who deserve space to process these complex emotions, right? Yeah. Similar to black women, right? You're either like a Sapphire, a Mammy, a Jezebel.
Right.
Yeah?
You didn't even need to throw us in there. It's about y'all.
Right.
Listen, I'm in a full and total understanding and agreement.
Throughout history, to go against this painted presentation, we have adhered to norms of respectability. How do you become respectable? By asserting your masculinity and showing that I am a man, no matter how much you lynch me, no matter how much you castrate me, no matter how much you rape me, white men and women, I am still a man. So I have to assert this masculinity. Right. What would it be if we were given the space to just be without saying that, it challenges your masculinity, it challenged, this view of you. Like, what if we were able to have spaces for our fullness? I think that's what we need in this moment.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna unpack that. I have all the thoughts. Hold.
I don't think there's anything left to be said. I was gonna say space, but you just tacked on all this other stuff that I didn't even know I was feeling. But yeah, space without consequence. That is super important. And for all the reasons that you said. In my personal experience, in the past couple of weeks, I think I've experienced space without consequence. And that's been very liberating. That's been very liberating. But the one thing that I would say is, I didn't know I had the space without the consequence. I thought I had space with consequence. And so oftentimes, what I was bringing into that space was fear. Was fear that if I was vulnerable, it would result in a consequence. I didn't recognize that I had it. So I would say space without consequence, but then also, we also need the communication of that space without consequence, the affirmation. To say, like, if you come to me with this stuff, just know that I'm going to listen to you. I'm just going to hear you. I'm just going to be here. I'm going to hold space with you. Because we can have it, but if we don't know it's there. Personally, I can have it, but if I don't know it's there, I'm going to operate off the pretense that if I say what I want to say, it's going to result in a consequence. You know what I mean? So, space without consequence, communication along those lines too.
Communication that it's there.
That is there.
Yeah.
It makes me think how much bravery, though, it requires. I think I'm sitting with the frustration that it has to take so much bravery to enter that space in that way. to muster up the strength and courage to be vulnerable, to shed a tear, to say you're sad, to show any softness. I think black men are not allowed to show softness. And as you two were sharing, I just kept thinking about the movie Moonlight.
So good.
Never actually saw it.
I'm just tired of this. Today, Albert is killing me, y'all. Like today, I've been trying to give him references. I tried to talk to him about the movie Life. He's telling me he don't remember a part because he didn't watch the movie.
I watched it. I just don't remember.
No, you said you didn't watch the whole thing.
I don't remember the whole thing. I don't remember none.
Because you didn't watch the whole thing.
I remember.
Now I don't remember none of it.
I remember them in prisoner outfits.
Who was in the prisoner outfit?
Did you watch the movie Life?
Oh, I thought you meant Moonlight. See, Rose. I was like, I missed that one.
The point is,
Marcy Murphy, right?
Yes.
So I remember that part.
Jesus be offense. I'm gonna knock him out.
Shout out to Fred Hammond.
Protection. Listen, he gonna need it, but I mean, it reminds me. It just reminds me of the movie Moonlight, and just like. It was very, to me, simply complex, and it just allowed, I think it painted that picture of how hard it is for black men to be soft, and like what happens when other black men sniff out softness in you. He was getting his ass kicked through like the first half of the movie until he took on this persona of strength and like beat the shit out of the old dude. And then he was respected, and then he had this like thuggish appeal, and then, but at the end of the movie, it just ends with softness. And I feel like, people might hear soft and insert their own derogatory meaning, but softness means allowing and being a full human. I think so many black men miss out on the beauty of life because they don't let themselves experience life fully. And much of that isn't y'all's fault. I think you were naming some of those practices and traumatic experiences that have been passed down through the bloodline, through the collective memory. And it is hard for black men to have a softness, to be sad, to shed tears. And I think I've been checking in with different black men in my life, and just to hear voices crack and tears this week, it heightened my awareness of the plight of the black man. Like, not that I wasn't aware, but just like, it pulled so much empathy and compassion and care for me, and from such a deep place. It awakened something in me this past week, and I feel like y'all deserve that. Y'all, when you guys are showing up fully 360 view, your lives are so valid and valuable that it pulls from us, just like from me, just this deep care. And so I think it's been particularly hard this week. Not that I ever forgot what happens to black bodies, but I just think it's hard. And to hear you both talk about that need for space, that need to just be, and how this world and society works really hard against y'all having that space. I think I'm just sitting with sadness thinking about that. It's painful.
But in sadness, there can totally be hope. Yeah.
Ooh, hope. Let's talk about moving onward. Where can black men find hope?
We can find out what we see on the news currently, right? I think so many people try to demonize this forceful way that we're combating oppression, right? But I don't demonize it, right? I see it as a valuable way to highlight that the oppression that we have endured for so long, not just the killing of black men, black women, black trans people, right? Not just speaking out against that, but really speaking out and going against the norms that we have been nurtured in, right? In a way, this violence, and this may be a wild take, but in a way, this violence, or not violence, but this aggression, excuse me, it's not really violence, it's aggression, is queering our day-to-day norms, right? And as we queer our day-to-day norms, we also queer the way we can show up as living human beings. I know that I'm judging it as like sounding really wild, but I hope
So
it
you're
makes
saying
some sort of sense.
that this agitation and aggression is pushing those boundaries of how people see us, like making more space to show up in different ways.
Because it's forcing you to see that we are humans and we're tired of being treated as not humans, right? And so then when we get the space to be seen as humans, we also create the space to be seen as humans in the way we show up in our humanity.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. I mean, I get it. It's resonating. Yeah. What about you, Albeezy?
What was the question again? Because I got lost in.
This is why I can't be drinking this.
Same.
All the activation. Where can black men find hope?
Okay. Where can black men find hope? I think we can find hope in the support that we currently have, and I find my hope in black women.
Tell us more.
I find my hope in black women because I think for the large majority of my life, the large majority of my life, I have grown up, like I said, single parent, single mom, older sisters. My mom always taught me to do things a certain type of way. She would always, I thought at the time, she would always be nagging and just be overbearing and want to know too much. Where you going? What time are you going to be back? And I'm just like, mind your business. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm a grown adult. And now, and I even sent her a text this morning because she had sent me something about a young man that was saying everything that their mother told them, and it made me appreciate so much just her overbearing nature. It wasn't that she was trying to get on up in a business, it was that she was afraid that what would happen if I did not come home at night? What would happen if I were to get into an altercation or be confused for something? Because that's happened before. I've been confused. I've been told that I fit the description of someone.
You've been profiled. We're not gonna say
okay.
We ain't put no sugar on it. He was profiled.
That's respectability, right?
Right.
That's the respectability. So I've been profiled a number of times on my front porch. Been profiled and say you fit the description of X, Y, and Z. And how'd that happen? I just came home from work at Taco Bell, mind you. Shout out to Taco Bell.
Shout out. We love a bean burrito.
I mean, on particularly lit nights, for whatever reason, I eat Taco Bell when I'm lit and emotional. That's a different topic for a different.
Give me something nice.
Lit and emotional, Taco Bell.
Yes, that is me.
But yeah, I just appreciate her. I appreciate her for what she had to do in order to make sure that I was okay. I appreciate her for caring, for the way that she did, the way that she knew how to. And so yes, that's my mother. And then in my relationship, because again, like I said, in the past weeks, I've experienced space without consequence. Never experienced that before a day in my life, but that only came from a black woman who knew my experience, who knows what it means to be black, who knows how to relate to what I'm going through. In a way, right? She doesn't know what it means to be a man, but she knows what it means to be black, and she knows the struggle, and so she knows that she knows that I have all this stuff that I'm holding, that I don't want to say it, or I don't know how to say it, and she knows how to create that space for me to say it. So I find hope in black women. Yeah.
I'm in here like.
Yeah, so shout out to y'all.
Shout out to the sisters.
Black women
Okay.
everywhere. Love you.
Yeah, let me see. I want
my
to.
mask?
You said your what?
My mask. I have a mask that says respect, protect, love black women.
Oh,
Yeah.
You are such an uncle.
Listen,
we love it.
Love it, Danny. Okay, so I feel like we've covered.
I am now.
You are Uncle Albert.
Uncle A.
Uncle A?
Yeah.
I don't know. I know. No, I don't like it. You're not my uncle. I don't have to like it. You said it's country.
Yes, but it's catchy, is what I said.
You're from New Jersey. Listen, okay, y'all. Because this has been a good conversation.
This was cute.
And I want to wrap it up with one last question. Words of wisdom for those people out there who have watched today. What's a takeaway?
You go first or me?
You go first. You always have the good stuff.
No, not even.
It's like you're.
But this has just been on my heart, just because of what I've been seeing, not only from my cis-het Black folk, but like from my queer Black folk.
Cisgender, hetero.
Sexual, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you gotta break down the
Yeah,
because some people don't know what that means.
Cisgender, heterosexual Black folk. I've also been seeing this from my queer brothers and sisters, and I've also been seeing this from my trans Black folk, right? A guilt whenever something good happens to you during this moment.
Right.
You have permission to feel joy,
Yes.
even in times of suffering. And, you know, we keep talking about taking the example from our ancestors, right? Slavery, Jim Crow, the new Jim Crow,
Reconstruction.
all of it, right? Our family members, our forefathers still experienced joy, still had fabulous memories, right? That we could still pass down, you know, fun stories from generation to generation. It's okay to feel joy, right? There is no joy without pain. We're feeling so much suffering, you're going to feel some joy in some aspect, right? Allow yourself to do so. You don't have to be on the front lines, right? Those who are on the front lines, those who are tweeting, those who are, you know, seem to be kind of like gaining the attention of the masses are no more important than those behind the scenes helping those find the strength to do what they're doing. Yeah, so give yourself permission to find joy. Give yourself permission to find your area of the vineyard to do work.
Yeah. I'm going to piggyback off of the area of the vineyard, and I'm going to tap into what you said about positionality. Do what you can from where you can. Do it.
It worked.
You know what I'm saying. All right, so fill the space that you can and not feel like you have to do more than that. Because we can all find ways to improve, but that improvement or those growth opportunities don't have to result in the shame of having not done it or having not done what someone else is doing. And yeah, just do what you can. Even if it's like I do, sing a song and post it on IG.
Hashtag Freedom Fridays.
Hashtag Freedom
He
Fridays.
sings,
Shameless
he
plug.
sings.
Even if it's something like that. I know for me, I don't have the temperament for a lot of back and forth, so I'm not even going to try to do that. And that's okay. I don't have to feel shame because of it. You don't have to feel shame because of it. If you can't go out to Philly or Delaware or Wilmington, they had something in Wilmington. Wherever it is, wherever you are, you don't have to be, like Patrick said, you don't have to be on the front lines of everything. Do what you can from where you can. And know that that's good enough, right? It's good enough, you know, because we all have a role to play in all of this. And not everybody can be Malcolm. Not everybody can be Martin.
We're not supposed to be. Because
and
my name's
right.
not Malcolm or Martin.
Right. So
Okay.
be who you are. Know what you can do and operate within that.
Yeah. I appreciate you both. I was looking for a quote. I was not texting. But there's a couple quotes. One of them connecting to what you were saying earlier, both of you, it's this sentiment of like, even in the darkest of nights, we still find a way to dance under the moonlight. And I think like, no matter what has happened to our people, we still find a way to cultivate joy and happiness. And that I think is our superpower. Like, regardless, we know how to find joy, even when it's not looking hopeful. Took a pig, made some chitlins, you know?
Chitterlings.
Chitlins. I'm saying they gave us the worst parts of the pig,
and we still make food.
You are messing up the whole vibe. And then an Ossie Davis quote. I love this quote, and I honestly am gonna get this as a tattoo, like ASAP. Well, it's one of my favorite quotes. But his quote says, "I find in being black a thing of beauty, a joy, a strength, a secret cup of gladness." And it just makes me feel warm and fuzzy whenever I say it. So,
and Beyonce said, "I was served lemons and I made lemonade.
This is our joy. You know what? I can see no better way to end this. I'm going to drop their socials in the video. I'm going to put their socials in the description. I need y'all to follow these phenomenal, gentle people. They're amazing. Let's do one more clink for the end.
Clink.
I ain't got that in here.
Well,
Can you get a refill?
okay, Elle.
Okay.
Look
Shout
at
out to
you.
her. Heard
You
you.
getting that wine dangerously close to the carpet. Yeah. Ooh. All right, y'all.
Amen.
Chin chin.
Ching ching.
Thank you
y'all
for being here.
Yes, thank you all. Remember to like and subscribe. Turn on the notification bells. It's been real, y'all, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Dr. Jenny from the Block.
Bye.